the and I can just a minute. Where is the PPT? So PPT.
Yes, it is visible, sir, to us.
Okay.
It is not.
It is not visible to me anyway.
No.
Just a minute.
Okay, sir, please start it.
Anyway.
Sir, there are 2 or 3 windows, so click on any one else. So you can see the PPTs.
Just a minute, I think this is the MS Team. So, where is that? I have shared it and it was coming. Is it changing?
Yes, sir, it is changing, sir. Sir, there are 2 or more window opens for a team. So in one of the window, you can visualize this PPT.
Fine. So if I change it, that is a problem. It has to be synchronized.
Now it's visible, sir, and it's changing.
This is the first slide.
This is the first slide.
Second slide.
Yeah, contains, right.
Fair enough. Thank you so much. Okay. Now we will talk in detail about the DC and hybrid microgrid operation and control. That is the today's topic of discussions. But before I go into the control topic, because what to control, that is very important. So we require to define the microgrid, because many of you are planning to start research on the microgrid, and for these reasons, I just try to from the very basics, then I go into the little depth. So I don't jump into the straight away into the problem. I wanted to do little bit of literature survey and also that history and the development, so that those who are planning to work on it, or those who are novice to the microgrid, they can also align themselves on the today's talk. Go to the next slide. I hope that it is visible, right? Slide number 2. Kindly, please, I require feedback.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So, content. Today's content. It's quite elaborate. I try to put almost everything here on the microgrid. Whatever I feel that it is possible to discuss in 2-hour sessions. So. We'll talk about the microgrid and its advantage definitely, and since we are researchers, so we require to talk about in detail about the challenges of the microgrid. Then we will discuss about the different type of the microgrid and distributed generation sources, block representations of the DG stands for the distributed generation. Please understand that we have a mindset that DG is the diesel generator. But in case of the microgrid, most of the microgrid, diesel generator is a forbidden entity because it is a polluting entity. We are looking for the renewables. So DG here is the distributed generations, and then I'll give you the list of the abbreviations after the slides. Interface for the DES units, then types of the microgrids. Then we shall go into the my domain, that is power electronics and basic microgrid, and thus we talk about to control the power electronics. We require the control system. So then, once for the system, we discuss in detail what are different type of microgrid control power converter finds its applications or been employed into the microgrid. Then we talk about in detail about its control system. So, around half an hour or 45 minutes, we try to see that what are the different kind of microgrids are, what are the power converter is being used, etc., etc. Now, in the second, from this slides onwards, you will find that there will be a control strategies that will be suitable for your microgrid applications. So, control of the decelerating voltage, to control the different intelligent control technique we will discuss as convenient as possible in our course of journey. So then we shall talk about the different kind of converter topologies in detail, and then we'll talk about the modeling. That is very important part. Then we come across the last part, that is the small signal stability and stanchion stability and power system stability and the mod system stability issues. And thus we will conclude our session. And these are the list of the abbreviation which you are already been introduced in my content section. It is DGs. Distributed generations, distributed generation resources, photovoltaics, energy storage, flying capacitor, CHP, DC VSI, voltage control, voltage source inverter, and current control, current source inverter, MPPT, maximum power point tracking, MPC, module and multi-level. Now, let us introduce the microgrid. So what is microgrid and what are the content of the microgrid? So thus we define that group of interconnected nodes and distributed energy resources. Distributed energy resources are essentially the source along with the storage, because there is highly unreliable sources are, and there are heavy fluctuations. These are all renewable energy sources. For this reason, we talk about energy resources, not at all energy sources, like in a conventional grid, with defined electrical boundaries that acts as a single controllable entity. We may have a different kind of control technique, but overall we can identify as a single controllable entity and is abide to operate in both grid connected and isolating mode. Now we are living into the RWA in apartment kind of entities. So that can be a microgrid. Our campus IIT Roorkee can be a microgrid. Like your campus, you are almost one of the oldest college in Pune. So that can be a microgrid. So local energy grid.
वो लागू नहीं करो NDP GC 020 कर ला
ये अल्लाह स्पेशल कैरेक्टर ने नंबर
the password भी same
आज पासवर्ड आईडी तो ये लोगों ने जनरेट हुए हैं पर आईडी આપણને મળી જાય
માનો કે આપણે એકને એસાઇન કર્યું દાખલા તરીકે આપણે સીએલ અસાઇનમેન્ટ
interaction with the traditional grid. It can be like first microgrid was introduced in the Sagardighi in West Bengal. A very good case study in India, but it was a great case of failure also. But that was an isolated island. So that also can be the case where the ship can be considered to be a microgrid. The emergence of the distributed generation and collaborative controllable loads and the local area storage capabilities are all been inducted into a single system and into the distributed network to contribute or constitute a microgrid. So that's what why the microgrid matters. Microgrid is a scaled down version of the centralized system. So you can generate, distribute, control power, and with the deregulations of the power sectors, it gives us the scope of the employment and enhanced economic activity and greater reliability, etc. For this reason, we are promoting the microgrid. And one of the advantage, these are the few advantages that we have pointed. It is reliable and flexible. One of the main grid, you may have a thermal storm or something, or 11 kV line has been collapsed, so you don't have power. So if you have a microgrid, then you have a lot of redundancy and you can fix up the issue locally. You need not have to wait for that centralized system to does the job. For this reason, it is reliable and flexible, and it is more secure. That, as I told you, so you can take the action locally, and you can isolate yourself from the cyber threats. These are the new challenges that has been penetrating few days ago. We intercepted some cyber threats in our power purchase agreement or the power exchange in Bombay. So microgrid in that way is quite resilient. You can isolate it itself and the data you may not put into the server, so there is no scope to get infected. So another is definitely the resilient. There is, please understand, there is a difference between the resilient and reliable. Reliable means actually it will provide you uninterrupted power supply and good power quality. And resilience means if it is going into any source disturbance, load disturbance or anything, and thus control systems comes into the picture, and it will ensure the stability of the overall system. So thus we can supply the critical loads and we can shield the additional load. In that way, one can maintain its operations. Another way that you may in islanding mode, you can go into the VYM control methods, so that instead of the 50 hertz to 200 volt for possible in a SCG microgrid, and that's what happened. So you can reduce the VYF. We can keep the VYF, decrease the frequency little bit, and thus you can save the power, and that will help you to get into the excess power, and that will stabilize the system. But there is a challenge, in a DC microgrid, these features is not available, and thus there will be a real challenge for the constant load constant power loads. So if the voltage drops, it will draw more currents. In that way, it is very very great amount of control technique has to be put into to control them. Another aspect is definitely the economy. Using sophisticated softwares, can we reduce the cost? Then we require to see that the overall payout time. Now, issue is that what is the cost of the fund? Now, in European Union, most of the bank operates as a zero credit. That means that they don't charge almost any interest. So if it is so, then definitely we can have a capital cost to be invented and we can save the money. But this model cannot work. The countries like India, which has a considerable amount of inflation, has a cost of the money with the time. So we require to look at this model also from the Indian perspective. And it can store and incorporate renewable energy, and that is the greatest features. So thus, what will happen in a local level, we can encourage the people to participate for the renewable energy activity and reduce the carbon footprint and greater entrepreneurial activity in the villages. Most of the villages, though India claim that India got almost 100% rural electrifications, but I have seen, just close by villages from Roorkee. So our campus, it is in the Roorkee. So we try to install a microgrid. There you have found that power quality is very poor, and thus the fluorescent light hardly become functional, and till before 9 p.m. the fluorescent light is not functional. So issue is that we require to give the quality power when the consumer needs it. It is not that, and centralized grid cannot afford to do that because of many issues, and they may neglect the end user because it is not at all very viable option for them. For few kilowatts of load, doesn't matter whether the voltage quality is good or not to a big centralized distribution company. Now, question is how the microgrid works. And advanced control systems, basically, a heart of this microgrid is the control system. So the advanced control system enables microgrid component to operate in coordinated and optimized way. The utility gate in interacted system serves as a primary source of every power. Microgrid, however, can be operated in islanding or disconnected mode. And you got an energy storage. So batteries, ultra capacitors, different kind of storage. I will come across detail about it. Flywheels. So that comes into the pictures, and it go with the hand to hand. And one of the area to investigate is that energy storage. Controllable generation provides stable and necessary level of the voltage and frequency of the system. Now, non-controllable generations, their intermittent input sources fluctuates based on the factors, that is the non-controllable generations. That is one of the biggest challenge, and we consider them as a input source disturbance. Like, based on the weather conditions, solar will generate, wind will generate. So if the particular microgrid has a considerable dependency on the wind and solar, or the wave energy, let's say, or the microhydral. Microhydral is quite reliable anyway. So in that way, we require to see that if it is uncontrollable generations, how you can cater into the system. Then the controllable loads. Then we require to have a controllable loads. Part of the load will be the critical, and part of the load will be controllable, and that can be shared. That can be maintained by load controlling schemes. We can have a variable tariff. One of the problems in India that domestic consumption consumers are charged uniformly, and now we are in since we are in a pandemic, we are using the white goods relatively more. Maybe our mates were washing dishes. Now we got a dishwasher, or more, or we were using the washing machine also for a long time. So in that way, what happened? Do we care about the peak load? So maybe actually we had a dinner at 9:30 or 10 p.m. So we still, we have a peak load, most of the cities, and then we don't bother to run our dishwashers. Why can't we put it at 3 a.m. morning when we have a considerable amount of the power? And that is feasible and possible. So, and that should have, if the customer gets the incentives, then only they do that. So definitely, that has to be controlled with the modern gadgets, and that 5G will act in a greater way for it. And thus we can start out maybe a dishwasher while in the office. When I can see that tariff is less, it can wash and keep it, and I come out from the office and take it. In spite of potential benefits, the development of the microgrid have serious challenges. So that's what we require to address, and we researcher has to see that how these challenges can be addressed and mitigated. First of all, in Indian context, as I told you, that high cost of the distributed energy sources, and though the solar energy cost is getting reduced day by day, so we know that by the reverse bidding, the solar company is selling power at almost half of the grid power. So now the grid power is more than the solar power, And the technical difficulties. There are many technical challenges that will come across in our discussions. Then absence of standard, because we have a grid code that is Bible or Gita for us for a long time, so that the power engineers are practicing for the past 50-60 years, even more than that maybe. So that kind of standard is absent still in the microgrid. IEEE has put forward few standard, but that is in a research domain. But in a practical domain, still there is absence of the standard. And there is no administration to monitor the standard. If we are not follow the grid code, there is an arbitrator to look after it. So administrators and the legal barriers also comes into the pictures. Since the multi-entity is involved, so what comes under which jurisdictions, these are also big challenges. Until now, there are very few market players, and thus it is almost a monopoly to it. And for this reason, many companies, many individuals are not looking for the this market. Now, the technical challenges, that is something it is very important and we can address. And once technical challenges has been addressed, other legal issues, other forming the forming this body, statutory body, etc., can be formed very easily. If the technical challenge are not being made, still remain fuzzy. So that is the great disadvantage to form the regulations. And thus, this energy management is an important aspect of it. So one aspect is that the management of instantaneous, these are power quality issues. So the microgrid should not take or inject power in any power quality. So one aspect is that you require to have a PQ control. You can allow to inject or take power in a particular TST and a particular power factor. So this is one of the challenge. And transitions from interconnected operation to the islanding and islanding detections. Whether you will support once grid is collapsing, whether you will support that main grid to restore or you will isolate. So what should be the norms? If you isolate, then in islanding mode, what are the challenges you will face? And we required to previously, maybe we are working for the PQ mode. Now we require to change the mode of operations in islanding mode. And also while changing the switching over, stability has to be maintained. Maintaining the stability and the power quality in islanding mode, because then there is a grid is a most of the cases grid is a most of cases we have a strong grid, so it will hold the power, and in that way you can exchange the power. Fine. The moment it is switch off, so who will take the lead? So which one will be the masters one, which one will be the slaves, or which one actually will form the main distributed resource? So that is a very big challenge. So that has to be defined and controlled and monitored. So this is a various type of the microgrid that has been put into the operations, and we can have a conventional generators, so that we are trying to phasing out. So because of the high carbon footprint, so then we have a low speed turbines and reciprocating diesel engines and micro turbine. So micro turbine still finds its application, especially in the place I stay in Uttarakhand. So in the winter sessions, there is a lot of small tributaries of Ganges, and so that small amount of those micro hydel can be put into the operation to elevate the life of the people. And thus what happened, and solar and this microgrid are complementary. Once you got a plenty of suns, so generally, but winter will be an issue because there is a lean period that you don't have water much due to fizzing, and also that you have a less solar. But rainy season will be extremely great for the microturbine and the solar. Once you got a good amount of sunshine, solar will also generate, and microturbine will generate when since the reservoirs are full. So another aspect is that non-traditional generator. These are the electrochemical drives. That is fuel cell. We can have hydrogen fuel, hydrogen tank, so it can use the charge. It can use to charge the battery. But one of the problem of the fuel cell is that its power density is quite low, and thereafter we have a different kind of storage. So we can have a plenty of storage. We can have a thermal storage. We have, but predominantly these are the batteries, 5 volts, and to have a stability problem, to reduce the stability of problem, we have ultra capacitor. I'll mention ultra capacitor as a different entity into the control system. Then renewable energy, then photovoltaic cells, wind turbines, and small hydro. The microsystem generally consists of 4 parts, as I told you in a little bit before. There is distribution system, there is distributed sources, generated sources, energy storage, controller, and loads. So that is the domain of the power electronics comes into the picture. And of course, for the storage and the distributed generations, power electronics and control is also been interfaced, because we want that to harvest the maximum power, that is MPPT tracking, and also we wanted to have a greater efficiency while charging, and thus the control also comes into the picture. Now we can have a plenty of generation scheme based on the locality here. That is the wind power system, that is quite common, where you have in a seashore radius, so we can use that. And Western Ghats are basically considered to be the mines of wind turbines. So the places, just if we go a little bit lower to the Pune, so there are plenty of places where we have a plenty of wind power, and they are little small villages, the wind power system. Then solar is almost abundant in India, so we don't have a problem in the equatorial zone. Little above the equatorial zone, so we have a plenty of sun almost every part of the India. And then the small hydel system. So in a hilly region, especially I stay in a Himalayan terrain, so there's a plenty of the tributaries of the Ganges and other rivers. So those small hydropower system will generate the power, and advantage is that it doesn't change the ecosystem. And then thermal energy, geothermal energy is located for the few places only. It is not there. Biogas is something that we can use in the cities because we can, we can convert it to the methane, and methane can be used to run the biodiesel. But carbon footprint doesn't reduce, but we can use the garbages. And then ocean energy. Ocean energy is a new concept. We can have an ocean generator, and we have a huge potential, even though our size of the waves are little less compared to the southern hemisphere, but still we can have a potential to harvest gigawatt level energy from the ocean, and thus we can have a small resort in some Andaman Nicobar Island or there. So there we can harvest the huge amount of this ocean energy, that is wave energy. Then single phase and the three-phase induction generator, mostly this is and synchronous generator driven by the IC engine. Now, this is the distributed unit works. We got a primary source, because primary source can be solar or wind, can be grid also. So then we can have an interface, and the protections and control has been monitored, islanding is required or not, and whether you are taking power from the grid, then it should be power or exchange power to the grid, then it should be actually good power quality. We should have to maintain the PQ control. Then we have a grid connected connections, and thus we got a fuse and etc. And this point we will use, that is point of connections. In that way, the distributed generation works. Now, I just go show the first table, that is about how does it work. DG, so reciprocating engines, small hydro, fixed speed wind turbine, etc. So, and interface or the inversion can be through induction generator or the synchronous generator. Then the power flow will be the PQ. And if it is an induction generator, so you always generate the negative power. For this instance, we have a plus power and the minus Q. Then we can have the non-conventional distributed generator, that is the variable speed wind turbine. So that's what we commonly use it to track the MPPT, etc. And that featured with the power electronics circuit. So we can have a AC, DC, AC conversion, or we can have a matrix conversion also, that I personally worked on it. So turbine speed, etc. will be monitored, and we require to maintain the PQ control. Then solar and the fuel cell, that is also comes with the DC to DC converter, and we require to track the MPPT of it. And generally, once you convert DC to AC, we require to maintain the positive power, generally to the source, thus there is no concept of the backflow. And we can control the P and Q depending on that, what is the power quality we intended to. So we can generate the reactive power quality. Now, that long-term storage is that we generally, as a long-term storage, we consider that battery storage. So we got our bidirectional DC to DC converter. So it can. So what we require to do is that state of charge and the output and voltage and the frequency control, that is called the loop control mainly, for the or we can go for the VYM control for the islanding mode, and it will be the generally the non-conventional distributed generations with long-term storage entities are being coupled, and they are called the energy resources, distributed energy resources, and they generally made as a prime entity into this microwave. Then there's a short time storage, that is ultra capacitors. Ultra capacitor can generally store energy into the seconds. So there is if there is a few fluctuations in the load, especially when we operate with the constant power sources. Constant impedance sources at least is good. If you can reduce the voltage, then it will draw the less power. But if it is a constant power sources, especially with this SMPS, so if you can reduce and it can operate in a huge range of the voltages, and power rating remains constant. And that will be extremely detrimental So once we switch on and we have if the power is increasing or decreasing, either cases. If the voltage, you go for the troop control, so voltage is decreasing. Since voltage is decreasing, it will take more current, as simple as that. So controlling that aspect is quite challenging, and alter capacitor plays a huge role into stabilizing the buses. Same way flywheel can operate for the seconds. It can generate power in from second to minutes depending on the size of the flywheel. I know one sugar manufacturing company near to our campus that they were facing a huge challenge for the voltage fluctuations, and for this reason they required to run the DGs to maintain the voltage into around 30% load, and they have implemented as a DST project. So part of it with the flywheel, and we found that they have considerably saved the cost of the diesel. So thus, let's come to the classifications of the microgrid. Microgrid can be classified into the DC microgrid, and generally, it was an old battle of Edison and Tesla, but now we are again coming back with the invention of the fuel cells and the solar and the battery. Since these are all are DC, so and also LEDs are DC, SMPS can be operated in DC. So thus, if it is a new system, we can go for the DC microgrid. Of course, if you want to retrofit into the system, then we go for the AC microgrid. And if you combine the AC, some portion of AC and some portion is DC. Let's say we are making a storage for data in our campus, because that's what we decided a few years ago, I think, that we should store all the data. We keep the huge files for particular years and all. So instead of keeping those files in a paper form, we can scan it and put it into the data. So in that way, we can save a lot of storage space. So we can require to add the hard disks instead of the physical files. So and thus, main intention is definitely that we can save the space. So, that kind of storage room, and we can have a rooftop system. Everything can be DC, and since let's consider that the centralized AC also, if you have, we generally feed to the inverters. So input to the inverter is also DC. In that way, we can plan totally for the for dedicated loads with the DC microgrid. Now, the typical configurations of the grid interconnected AC microgrid first, that is consisting of the transfer switches, because we can be in a grid connected mode or we can be in another mode, single or multiple DG and distributed storage unit, DS, critical and non-critical loads, power management system, and protection devices. So these are the issues. Now, an AC microgrid, the distributed network is connected to the AC bus, and if there is a DC part, DC sources, then we generally convert into the DC to AC. So we know that we require to have an MPPT controller and etc. And wind turbine generally most of the cases is AC DC AC, but we can also have a matrix converter that can convert directly AC to AC. And there the energy storage is DC to AC, and load, either DC load we require to rectify it, but rectification should be done in a unity power factor. Thus we require the active rectifier instead of the diet clamp rectifier, or we can have a PFC, power factor corrected topologies for the single phase. And same way for the AC line loads and circuit breaker, and we can have the main grid. Now, see that penetration of the power electronics into the microgrid for these systems, because we have a wind turbine, and generally if it is DFIG, then we generally fit rotor side and the stator side by the dual converter, so that the rating gets reduced. It's one of the both the converter only see the slip power. So stator side you can inject the power for both the rotor and stator, and thus the rating of the power electronic devices comes down. And in that case, and that is basically possible in case of the DFIG schemes. And if it is a PMSM scheme, generally we use AC/DC AC or the matrix converter. But for the huge power rating, generally we use DFIG, and thus we use with the dual power converter to extract power with the MPPT. Then you can have a solar cells or the fuel cells, and thus we have to track the MPPT, then we convert DC to AC. And then the energy storage, it can be a battery traditionally, and we can have the connections with the main grid. Then if it is a non-critical load, then based on that it can be switched off. Let's say lifts and etc. And lift generally is supported with this battery, so it will stand on the closest platform. So, but the critical loads, it cannot be switched off. So generation should support the critical loads. Now, the renewable energy resources, that is the combinations of the generations and the that is the combination of the generations and the these sources. This storage makes it the RES, and the solar and the wind energy system, which is combined with the, we require to have a MPPT tracking, and to track the MPPT, we require the power electronic circuits, and that itself is a control, and we require, and there is an MPPT card we require to track that power based on the wind speed or the solar radiation or temperature. So some particular requirement of the power electronics definitely are it can act very fast, stable, and the reliable power supply we can have from the fluctuating power sources. High performance of the operation, most of the power electronics converter has got very high efficiency. And regulations of the active and reactive power, so thus we can address the power quality issue. And secure communication, we got a data, so that data can be communicated by Wi-Fi, by Zigbee, by any kind of protocol, so that to the nearest server or the microwave, depending on the location of the server and the size of the microwave. So this flexibility, gives us the accessibility, remote accessibility, and the power converter with the wind topology, that is something we are very much interested in. And as I told you, that it consisting of the mainly DC, AC/DC, AC converter for the PMSG, that is, and the doubly fed induction motor, we can have a dual converter. So this is the concept. Once we have a turbine, wind turbine, and generally we have a gearbox. By gearbox, we can change the speed of the generator, but we can remove the gear. That's not a very big issue. So then we can get the generator So generator will generate power in a particular frequency, maybe 18 hertz, 25 hertz, depending on the wind speed. And wind speed may vary, let's say, in some coastal area, 6 km per hour to 12 km per hour, but while the thunderstorms comes, it's challenging. So it will convert to the 18 hertz to 50 hertz, and thus we require to have an intermediate DC stage, and that is generally for the synchronous motor. And for the power converter with the solar, we have a PV panel. Generally, we have a switching. Due to that, we got a ripples, and that will have a arc fault current, and for this reason, we require to give a filter, and thus we got a DC to DC converter that will track the MPPT. Once it's tracked the MPPT, it feeds the power to the DC bus. From DC bus, generally we have AC to DC conversion, and sometimes we can have a high frequency isolations also in DC to DC converter. So that gives you a galvanic isolations, and it becomes compact because we are not using the transformer. And then we have a transformer to step it up and connect to the grid. And if we are not using the transformer, sometimes we directly connect to the grid, then we provide the high frequency transformer in between the DC to DC conversion, and instead of the non-isolated DC to DC converter, it will be an isolated DC to DC converter. Microgrid is an electrical system. Definitely, let's talk about the DC microgrid. So generally, we go for the DC microgrid when we have a sources at DC, and we got a loads are predominantly DC, okay, and thus we are making from the scratch. Then only we go for the DC microgrid. Otherwise, what happens? There is a fans. There are many entities of the AC one, so we don't want to change that. So consisting of the DC power, PV power, wind, fuel cells, etc., and DC power distribution network, we require a special kind of wiring also. Problem lies, please understand it that it doesn't have a natural zero. So for this reason, it requires a special consideration. DC device and the load, and it has got few advantage of it. So steam effect and etc. is not there. So lighting, computers, electronic gadgets, small motors can be done with the DC grid, and the control monitoring can be wireless, wired, virtual, cloud-based, whatever it may be. Now this is the block diagram of the DC microgrid. That is, you got a solar panel, MPPT, DC bus, wind, DC to AC. Generally, we have boost topology to inject the power, and thereafter DC to DC converter. And the load side, we can have that DC to AC conversion to the DC load, then DC to AC, and then AC load, and so on. Now, let's come to the control part of it. Let's see that I now introduce the control part of the DC microgrid. We require to maintain the DC bus voltage. In case of the AC microgrid, we generally require to maintain the voltage as well as the frequency. Here, since frequency is not present, we require to maintain the voltage of the DC bus. The voltage variations of a DC microgrid can indicate whether the system power flow is balanced. So that is very important. So this is one of the challenge, please understand it. Why? Let's say you are sending power back to the source, and you are making AC to DC to AC. Once you are making AC to DC, so at the zero crossing, assume that voltage and current are in the same place, almost in a unity power factor. you are not transferring any power, but you are transferring the maximum power while you were at the peak. And for this reason, capacitor can act as a buffer in between and can take and can contribute a little bit of power in the at the peak and charge it a little bit at the 0%. So for this reason, the charging current can be IT minus IG. So that has to be balanced, and even if it is for the not necessary that it is DC to AC, it is for the other converter also. And thus what happened, we can see that there will be a current group. So we require to see that voltage reference, and there is a current reference, and then you got a proportional controller, and after proportional controller we require to set a limiter so that current value doesn't cross any value, because initially error may be more. So linear current control is imposed when voltage variation is between, if you can see that, V1 to V2, and after that we require to go for the saturation current. That control strategy required to change, and normal proportional controller will not work. We know that KP has a problem, but KP acts very fast, that it cannot eliminate steady state error, etc., etc. So that's what happened. You have a DC source, and thereafter you have a DC-DC converter. Then you got a CDC, that is a point of common coupling, and you got RTC, that is emulated impedance or the resistance. Since it is DC microgrid, we call them resistance. In AC, we call them impedance, and thus you got VDC minus delta VDC. Thus, what happened? DC network bus voltage. We know that it doesn't have a phase or impedance. It does not have an element, imaginary quantity. It will operate like this. Now, what is the power? Of course, C dV dt is I. I into V is the power. So C dV dt into V will give you the power. So, and you can write in a different form if you wanted to write that emulated resistance. So that will be VDC by del VDC by RTC. And thus the del VDC is the voltage drop in the line resistance. So the DC grid increasing load, decreasing voltage of the DC link capacitor. Now bidirectional DC to DC converter. And most of the cases, we require galvanic isolation, and thus we prefer the non-isolated one. But of course, for the small system with a cheaper alternative, we may go for the bidirectional and this isolated DC, non-isolated DC converter. That is the first one. So generally, we go for the full bridge fashion. It depends on what is the power rating and full bridge fashion, and one of the biggest, and it has, with the synchronous rectifier, because it should not be diode, it should be synchronous rectifier. One of the advantage we are now gaining that with the penetration of the high bandgap device, it almost become almost affordable to us. And many people are still say that it is costly, but I don't find much difference, okay, considering the benefit it gives to us. And so that synchronous MOSFETs can be high bandgap device, and thus the power rating of this MOSFET based non-isolated DC to DC converter can go as high as 100 kilowatt, that is possible. And paralleling a MOSFET is not a big challenge like IGBT. So we can also parallel the MOSFETs with the parallel operations. And thus we can go for non-isolated topology mostly for the bidirectional operation. So it is a diesel generator, then it is the last man on the road, because we don't want to use diesel generator. If everything fails, then only we go for the diesel generator. Then we can have a wind farm, that is DC-AC DC converter, or we can have for the hybrid microgrid, if it is sending to the AC bus, then we can have the matrix converter also, that also feasible. Then we can have a utility grid and the AC loads. And then we can have a DC side, DC wind farm, that can be smaller one, and it is with the boost topology and to harvest the MPPT. Then we can have a solar that can be a huge amount of power. And then battery bank, so it can charge and discharge. Then the DC loads. Now, this is the hybrid topology. So you can see that wind turbine, solar, fuel cell are the distributed sources, and that comes under the category of AC DC or DC DC or these categories. And then it directly feed to the DC bus, and then we are feeding the grid into the AC bus, and interconnectivity between DC to AC bus is that active rectifier, bidirectional flow of the active rectifier. So that will do the energy management. So, but problem lies, there is a vulnerability of this energy management because you have a one weak link. Now, what is the role of the power electronics here? Now you can see that the distributed power sources like wind energy or the storage, that is we call energy resources. So that is battery, flywheel or the capacitor. Then we can have a AC to DC or DC to DC converter module. Then we can have a DC to AC, then filters, then it talks to the AC sides. And ultimately everything can be monitored and controlled by the power electronics. So how much power you wanted to dispatch to the grid, and how, in which power quality, everything can be checked. Now, these are the issues that DC output, like PV, batteries, etc., generally are been coupled, and they are essentially maintaining the DC bus voltage. And DC to AC converter module is the most generic module and converts the DC sources to the grid compatible AC power. An output interference module and filters out the high frequency part, since most of the AC to DC to AC conversions are with the PWM technique, high frequency PWM technique, and thus we require to filter it out. And another aspect is that power electronic interface also contain monitoring and the control function. That is the major topic of discussion today, and that ensures that the distributed energy resources can be operated whenever it is required. And monitoring are, as I told you, that is that real power, reactive power, voltage, frequency in AC side, etc. And also the load and impedance parameters. Now, what are the main functions of the converter is to facilitate the exchange of the power between the subsystem with the high efficiency. And that's what we said in a desired manner, in a prescribed way. But bottom line is that we should have a very high frequency. And the subsystem often have a different attributes in terms of the voltage and current. waveform, and thus we require to have a conversion. So solar may be generating some voltages, so we require to have a buck converter or the boost converter, isolated one, to integrate with the DC bus. The DC bus will be a 48 volt or 72 volt, a standard voltage, and thus converters are categorized based on the type of the electrical system. They are DC or AC that are interfaced to. For this reason, we can have a DC to AC or DC to AC converter, and then DC to DC and AC to AC. DC to AC converter are not very frequently used. These are the matrix converter. So generally, it is used to be coupled with the wind turbine. So output of the wind turbine is a variable voltage and frequency DC. We wanted to make it a fixed frequency, variable frequency AC. We wanted to make it a fixed frequency AC to the constant magnitude. Then we go for this AC to AC conversion. Now another issue is that active filtering, as I shown you that within AC to AC and DC bus, we have put a one power electronics entity, and that actually does the active filtering. The main functions is to power electronics with active filter is to synchronize and inject specific current and voltage component and enhance the power quality to the host power system. So it has the capability of the acts as a shunt active power filter as well as exchange of the power. And the compensations, that is also we require to do static var compensations instead of the rotation compensation. This can act also as a active power compensations. So that is called static compensator in a transmission line, and that if you have in a transmission line, those are the fax devices. But if it is in a distributed level, then same concept has been taken into the distributed level. We have a STATCOM, we have a DSTATCOM, we have a UPFC, Unified Power Flow Controller. We have a in distribution level UPQC, Unified Power Quality Controller or Conditioner. And they all does almost the same thing. It can control the power. Fax devices, as we know that, control power between one end to another end. Same can be achieved and maximize the efficiency of the transfer power, enhance voltage and angle stability, and improve the power quality. So that is the compensation part. Now this has been derived from the fax and it has been integrated to the distribution fax. Sometime we talk about. Then the power conditioning. So power conditioning has a multiple job to do and multiple control technique has to be followed. Control of grid voltage, control of current, control of declining voltage, control of AC load voltage or current, control of harmonics, control of speed, and so on. Control power. Now, control of power converters are considered the control of voltage and current. So generally, it can be current control voltage source inverter. What happened, then as we know that power transfer equation is V1 V2 by X sum. And once you control the current, so what happened that automatically the inverter voltage will change to accommodate the power. Of course, it has to be available. Now here we can see one control logic. Here we use this concept is called that voltage mode control, and voltage mode control will ensure that voltage has been maintained, and that is the strategy. But however, this is for the boost topology, and however we don't have any information about the current and for this, but boost generally have a reduced current in the output at least, but there can be a problem with the switch. Switch has to be operated and the short circuit condition cannot be prevalent for the long condition. then inductor gets saturated. And for this reason, we can emulate the strategy as X star versus X, where X can be a voltage here, and that the X S is actual. Then you multiply with the emulated resistance RS. Then you compare with the carrier wave and the PWM strategy, and you switch on the converter. So that is the simplest converter, and that is called voltage control converter. However, there is an issue of the stability with that converter. Now, same strategy can be used for the PWM rectifier. That is used, but here we sense the current, and we have the current emulate the resistance drop, that is voltage loop, and then we call it is the current control voltage source inverter. Then we take the feedback from the voltage and we cross check the voltage with the reference, and then we got R. Then we have to be compatible correct template, it's been multiplied. So we ensure that the voltage is sinusoidal, also the cophasor. So in that way, we use the control of the active rectifier. And here you can change the direction of the current 180 degree. So 0 to 180 degree you can change. So another aspect is that the power quality has an issue with the bidirectional, has an issue with the two-level inverter. And all the stop, because high frequency PWM, ultimately we are passing this buck to the filter. And thus, what happened? It has a considerable amount of THD problem, and gradually the filters deteriorates its performance, asset filters, leave with the low power quality. And for this instance, one of the solution is the multi-level inverter for this system. Once we convert DC to AC. So power converters and capacitor voltage source when probably connect, so it reduces the THD as well as the voltage stress across this devices. So we have so many advantages on the multi-level inverters, and it can be ranging from the small kilowatt to the 30 megawatt. And I hope that with the invention of the CAN devices, high bandgap devices, we can store this power at least 10 times more. So these are the high power, high voltage operating capability, lower common mode voltage, that is DVDT, voltage with reduced harmonic content, and increasing efficiency. These are all the possible things, and thus we generally prefer a multi-level inverter instead of a two-level inverter, considering the power quality issues. And this is the advantage of the multi-level inverter in brief. So once you switch it on, two-level inverter voltage swings between positive VDC and the negative VDC, and the volt area card become equal. So once you have a 3-level, at least you have an intermediate 0. So voltage doesn't swing between the positive and the negative. Once you record a positive voltage, you make it 0, not the negative voltage. The instantaneous current here is less, and thus the instantaneous current here is generally filled by the high frequencies in case of the inverters, and that will be reduced. And now, the case 3, we got a multi-level inverter, and you can see that it is a staircase and it is close to the sine wave. So this is and thus we prefer it because voltage stress across the switch, it is DVDT of sine is cos, and when current is when voltage is more, then voltage stress is less. So in that way, it is a very good solutions, and for this reason we are eyeing for the multi-level inverter. So now I just show that what are the different kind of multi-level inverter can be used into the microgrids. These are this basic conversion. We generally don't use the current source multi-level inverter into the microgrid because it's not a drives. It got a huge amount of the inductor and that is not visible. We generally use the voltage source multi-level inverter. Voltage source multi-level inverters can be multi-source, that is cascade edge bridge, and can be single source, that is neutral blind cam and the flying capacitors. And for cascade edge bridge, you can have a uniform DC source or you can have a unequal DC source, that is called as asymmetrical cascade multi-level inverter. Another one is called symmetrical multi-level inverter. So with that asymmetrical multi-level inverter with a good control strategy, we can achieve good amount of the level with the lower number of cascade edge bridge. Now this is the neutral cam multi-level inverter that has been used here, and it has a problem is that, you know, of course it will reduce the KST, but please understand the problem. It has a problem of the balancing of the DC bus voltage. So generally, then once that, especially while we are feeding the real power. So once we are feeding a real power, so voltage and current are in a phase. So for this reason, what happened? Once the voltage, so power, we are transferring zero power at zero crossing and the peak power at 90 degree. So thus, in a positive half cycle, once it will change and thus voltage will fluctuate. Same happens to the negative half cycles. And for this reason, the challenge of the multi-level inverter is to balance the DC bus voltage. Apart from that, it has a huge component counts. We require M1 minus in bracket, you know, M1 minus M2 number of diodes. So if you have a 9 level, generally we have a odd number level because in between we have a 0. So above 4 level and below 4 level. So 9 level, then if M minus 1 is 8 and 7, so we require a 56 number of diodes. Now we can also introduce the flying capacitors, where these capacitors are ceramic capacitors. So it has got a greater reliability and faster operation and low ESR compared to this capacitors, electrolytic capacitor. But problem is that it has to operate very fast, and charging and discharging of the capacitor has to be controlled. But advantage of this flying capacitor multi-level inverter has got lot of redundancy. So you can generate this different state of the particular voltage with this with less effort. However, component count here is little reduced. Number of switches are remain same, but number of capacitor is M minus 1 into M minus 2 by 2. So instead of the 56 diode, we require 28 capacitors or 9 level. And thus we require to investigate the cascade edge bridge multi-level inverter, and also the asymmetrical one. You will find that asymmetrical one got advantage, so this is the way we can generate a different kind of voltages. Positive voltage, zero voltage, and the negative voltage, zero voltage can be generated by switching the both the top switches or the bottom switches. And so now let's come to the modeling of the voltage source inverter. Though I am drawing here the 2-level inverter, it can be for the multi-level inverter, and it is generally the multi-level inverter. So we require to maintain the DC bus voltage. That is one of the challenge. And current required to be either co-phasor or out of phase or leading or lagging depending on the current compensation capability. Now for this we will show it. We can go into the StatCom mode, that is we can we can have a phase difference. So ISF, PS, and ultimately this is the inverter voltage. So here you have maintained the voltage. Here the voltage and current is 90° phase shifted. Same way we can have a B, that is unity power factor here, and then we can have a lagging power factor for B, and C is the leading power factor. Sometimes you can use to compensate the reactive power inductive power generated by the different entities. So you want to suppress the negative power, and you can have a bidirection operation that is for the regenerative braking. So you can have a 180° phase shifted that inverter current. So in that way, we require to operate our PWM rectifier. So this is the equations, of the three phases. It is V1, VS1, VS2, and VS3, and thus we transfer this quantity to alpha beta frame. Generally, zero sequence are absent, so it is a 3-phase to 2-phase conversion. It's just ABC to the alpha beta frame. So once we transfer it to the alpha beta frame, so then we rotate that alpha beta frame with the synchronous frame of reference. Here it is quite easy, unlike the motor. So whether it has to be fixed on the stator frame of reference or rotor frame of reference. Here you've got a PLL from the voltage, you fix it, and then this will be your PQ and the VD, and thus you can have a vector control where we align the phase A with the D, and thus we say that unity power factor operation once it has been achieved. So this is the equations of the voltage source inverter, that is VST equal to ISID plus del DIDT minus omega LSQ. There is a cost term, please understand it. So you will have a ISQ and IST, and thus we have to model into the DQ frame of reference. And since that quantity becomes DC in a DQ frame of reference, and please understand that even though the quantities are DC, this is representation wise, but those quantity will retain its identities. So it is not like that there is DC quantity differentiation is 0. So it will be there. So for this, and thus we have transferred this thing to DQ frame. One of the advantages of the DQ frame of reference is that tuning of the PI controller is easier, because this will be the DC value. So please refer to the block diagram here. We have a voltage controller. So then we got a information of the frequency and the input voltage, and thus you got we convert into the output voltage into the VD and the VQ frame for the inverter. This is the input to it, and then you actually measure it. This is the start quantities, and you subtract it, and then you also calculate the ID and IQ. From here you sense this inverter current, and from there you can compute the ID star and IQ star, and then you compare with the current control, and ultimately it is done by current control voltage source inverter. From the VD star and from the informations of the frequency and the power, you will compute the VD and VQ star, and from the VD and VQ star in actual VDC, you can, from the grid side, you will take it and then you'll compare it and generate this reference for ID and IQ. And actual ID and IQ you will compare, and then you will run it as a current source, voltage control current source. So this is the operational block diagram of the grid side inverter. So the angle that is the drift, angle of ith, the distributed frame of reference with respect to the common reference. As please refer to the, my this slides. Okay. So let's say it's delta, and the delta is a torque angle. We generally talk about it. So that is omega m minus omega common. And we will be applying the same group control principle we do apply in the generator. But problem lies, it doesn't have the electrical inertia. Electrical inertia is extremely low. So for this reason, and we can have a force mass and force versus force and current analogy, and from there you can find that capacitor can be the electrical mass. So that has to come into the picture, and ultimately that electrical mass is quite less. So for this reason, we require to act very fast, and that is the biggest challenge. The power controller block contains the group control technique into and provides the voltage reference of this for the current of the VDY and the VQY, and thus what happened, omega and the E. From there you got a group control, and that is the E, and thus you fed this inverter into DQ block, and from there you will have this equation. This is the reactive power, and this is the real power cost terms with a low pass filters, and thus we got the value of the P, and you require to have the information of the frequency, and that is the group control frequency, then that will be the operating frequency of the inverter. Similarly, we can have the Q, and that once it operates a sag, we can mitigate the sag by injections of the reactive power, and also we can reduce that swell by the injections of the negative reactive power. So thus this comes into the pictures, and in general, this voltage required to be 0 for the unity power factor operation. So this is the power equations, in a differential mode, and thus we will write the state space equations. So that is the omega Ci into Pi, that is the power of the inverter, plus omega Ci, that is the control frequency of the inverter, of this output voltage of the inverter, and current is the real power, and this one is the imaginary power. Now, please refer to the previous block, previous slides. So I just go back maybe. So this is the slide. Please note that. So the next block I will show a little later. You will see that VDY equal to, we have a group control, and that is a reference voltage that you want to maintain, and it is we want a unity power factor operation, and I. So for this reason, it is VDY and VDY reference. We have a PI controller. We can of course modify with the pardon me. So different kind of controller technique, but that's different domain altogether. We can have a resonance PI controller, so that in a feedback path we can add some kind of resonance to eliminate the steady state error. Thereafter, you can have if you subtract the inverter actual voltage, power, and current, then you subtract the current also, but you multiply with the function because it is the voltage. So thus you get the current reference for this P-axis. Same way you got a Q-axis current. So generally this IQ star required to be 0. But if you want that, also it can be done. So then the KVA rating will change, remains constant. So this is the KPKI block, and then you subtract with the VDI, and then you again subtract with you add up with this current block of the QI, and thus you get a reference QI. You see that this is the way you generate. If I'll come to the FI block little later, that is the feed forward control block. So that comes into the pictures, because it is something like that. Let us have equations V1 V2 by X sine delta. So how we'll change the delta? So you add up some bias and change the delta so that you can increase or decrease power. Same way, the F is a feed forward control. So we got a flux, that is differentiation of the flux is a voltage, and you know that there is an output voltage VI and QI. It may be the DC bus voltage or it may be the grid voltage. It may be a DC bus voltage for the highlighting mode. It will be the grid voltage. It will be grid current. So same way we got a VDI and the QI, and now we can have a reference that is VDI equal to FQI omega M F I VQI, then KP plus KI for ID and IQ. There is a one mistake. This will be 5QI. I'm sorry for the mistake. So this will be then. Thus, this is the way of realizing that your voltage reference. And this is a block diagram of the current controller, because you got a current control IDI and IDI, then KPKI, and then multiply with the KPKI with the impedance. Omega B into LM is your base impedance, thus you get the voltage, and ultimately you generate the PWM circuits for it. Same way for the QI. So thus what happens, the differential algebraic equations for the current controller can be written into this following form, and where VDI and the VQI are the auxiliary state variable, and we require to tune the PI controller, and since you are in a DQ mode, PI controller you can, from the dynamic response, from the overshoot, you can tune it very easily. It comes down to the second order system. And thus QI, DI and the IQI are the direct and the quadrilateral axis component of the ILDI block diagram of this inverted based distributed generation. So thus this is the way you will operate. So for this reason you can see that it is IQ ref and DQ ref. So you got a voltage reference, you feed it, you subtract it, and you just this is the inner voltage loop, and this is the grid voltage. From there you will compute the theta and etc. And from there you will have the actual value of the VD and VQ. And thus, how you will generate the alpha 1, that is you require for the PLL, that is the construction of the PLL rhythm. So we want that this phase to be aligned with the VD. So of course that VQ component will be 0. So you subtract with the 0 with the VQI. So and PI controller will gives you the value. Then you integrate that value. So since if you integrate the voltage, it is frequency. If you integrate the voltage frequency, then it will be theta. So thus you get the theta in that way. But one of the problem of this is the simplest way of generating the block diagram of the PLL. So another method would be definitely once refer the zero crossing and start the ramp and get it done. But what happens if there is a slight change in the frequency, then the estimation can be heterogeneous. But one of the problem of this calculation is that it is slow. So convergence will have a steady state error. Convergence will have if there is a change in frequency, then any issue will come. Now the current control voltage source inverter, we have a block diagram, that is the direct inverter voltage and the grid voltage or the output voltage, whatever it may be. So we have a Kp and Ki. You subtract that output voltage, and while also subtract this, ultimately we have to generate these equations. So thus from there, inside it, you have this Qi ref. So from there, you will get the VQi and VDI. So it is internally built. So these are the two entities has to be developed in this way. Where, of course, we consider this to be it is a current integration, so for this we call the lambda I. While lambda I, the lambda Q is auxiliary state variable, it doesn't have a physical existence. It is basically something like flux linkage. So, ID, ODI, and the QI are the direct quadrature axis component of the output current of the current block of the distributed generator. Now, we did it for conventional methods. Of course, we can do it with the artificial neural method, fuzzy logic methods, multi-agents method, genetic algorithm, particle source optimization, intelligent hybrid technique, etc., etc. But basic idea is same. We require to get this value, these values, whether you trade it, whether you can replace this PI controller by ANN for your faster response, that's fine. But basic equations and dynamics are the same. So this is the control block diagram of control of the decelerating voltage. That is quite an important aspect of this microgrid. And the decelerating voltage VD is compared with the VREF, and the error is subtracted. Then you require to have a sinusoidal voltage source. It has been multiplied, and you require to track the reference by the hysteresis controller. Maybe in that way it can operate. So that is the PWM source rectifier, and the template is used to produce the PWM pattern is always controlling the rectifier in two different ways: a voltage source current control rectifier and a voltage source voltage control rectifier. We generally prefer the current control methods, and the current control method is simpler and more stable, and inherently short circuit protections protected. And if you see that peak current mode control, that itself will reduce the number of poles into the denominator and makes the system so sluggish but fast, stable. So same way for the power electronics can be extended to the single phase DC to AC inverter or the solar inverter, where you require to track the MPPT. Most of the cases, we require to switch it out, and I have eliminated the inductors and other auxiliary component of it. So we require to make the 50 Hz with the MPPT. So upper switch will be on and lower switch will be on to generate the square wave. And generally, this is the principle of operations of the two-level inverter. So two-level inverter has got higher switching, higher distortion, and ultimately we generally prefer unipolar PWM rather than bipolar PWM for higher shifting of the higher frequency, because it shifts with the next frequency spectrum by 2f. So and ultimately this is the logic. So we all know it. I don't go into the detailed explanations of it. So ultimately, that this is the principle of the harmonic of the PWM operations. So instantaneous value will be VAN is VDC plus VDC by 2 sin omega t plus harmonics, and harmonics you require to filter it out by the high frequency filters. So now let us start of the modeling of the single phase inverter. So we want that, one is the inverter side equations. While switch is on, that is inverted equal to RF LDI, RF into LF plus LF DIDT plus into V alpha VA. Now we are talking about the single phase, and thus we can convert into the three phase also, and we can write into the equation into the DQ frame. So it will be same. While writing in a DQ frame, there will be a cost term, that is omega LF into IQ and omega LF into ID. This term will come, and ultimately this is the one switch is off, this will come. So this value, you can take this value, so ID should be equal to this and IQ should be equal to this. So you can see that how we can implement the controller. So there's a cross reference, ID ref, there's a subtractions from VD, actual from the inverter, and then you feed it to the PI, and you got VQ, when you multiply with omega into CF and then subtract it, you get ID ref. Same way we will get IQ ref, and this ID ref and IQ ref, what you have generated, then again you feed it to the ID ref and ID, and actually you measure it with the current sensors, and thus you feed it. There is a cost term of omega LF, and you subtract it, from the VD, you get the VD reference. Same way for the VQ reference. Sometimes VQ can be 0, depending on whether you require to inject the unity power factor operation. So in that way, we'll operate. Now, let us come to the boost topology of the modeling. That is a DC to DC converter boost topology. We may use it quite frequently for the MPPT tracking, and also the unity power factor operations, that is called PFC, for unity power factor operations for the single phase for lower power rating. So we have the basic equations that is quite known to you for long times for our power electronics learning days. So that is BL equal to VS equal to LDIDT, or LDIDT equal to VS by L, and thus the change in the inductor current can be computed like this. So we can, during switch on, this is the state space equations, this is equations, and we put it into the state space ladder, and we assume that it is a continuous conduction mode, but discontinuous conduction mode, the equation will change, and by solving that we get Vs by 1 by D, and thus we have to assume that converter input power is equal to the converter output power, and efficiency is almost 100%, and average inductor current can be found by VSO by V0 by I0 by Vs, and thus you write that we can have that is the CLP, that is a constant power load. So we can change the voltage, but by changing the duty ratio, it will maintain a constant voltage, and that is by detrimental. So dx, and ultimately this quantity is generally I. So LDIDT rather equal to E minus 1 minus U, and U is the switching logics for precision sliding mode passing to the pitch embedding. But here we are not introducing sliding mode. X1 and X2 just is more than greater than 0. So these are the X1 and X2. This P by E and E by 1 minus U by T. So from there we can have the state space average model for the constant power load, and this is the state space average model, that is dx dt equal to PV plus U into X, and C d2x dt equal to UTX1 X2, where PV is the nominal. If it is a battery voltage, that battery it can be a mass voltage also. And X1 is the average inductor current, and X2 is the average capacitor voltage. These are we know that voltage across the capacitor and the current through the inductor of the state elements. So assuming the system to be have a right hand side of the converter consisting of the both CLPs, that is constant power load, and constant power source, and the net power is PN. So you can derive the equation like this, and thus what happened when PN is positive, charging mode, when PN, then it is PN is positive, is generally considered to the discharging mode, and considered to be a charging mode. In the case of the voltage control inverter we use for the solar panel, it is quite simple. So you have a divider circuit. With that, you got an op-amp, and you compare with the sawtooth waveform, and you generate the pulses from the MOSFETs. Generally, power rating of the MOSFET can be, current rating of the MOSFET can be low. We don't have much problem paralleling the MOSFETs, so that can operate in a parallel. Thus, we can go for the current control mode. That is the boost converter. In the current control mode, you can have a voltage network. With that, you will sense the current. That is quite important. So then you will operate with the current control mode. So current has to be sensed and it required to be compared. Now this is we require to track the maximum power. So depending on the different per unit value, and you can see that where is the MPPT point, how it is shifting, and how we have to change the operating point based on the per unit value. And this is for the wind applications. Okay, and so you have a wind, and the power of the wind is proportional to the cube root of the omega, and PTM is the TM into omega m, and T is proportional to omega square. So we require to take this into the consideration. So lack of time, we just left with the 15 minutes. I try to convert it very fast. So ultimately, customer kilowatt profile we require to know, intermittent sources forecast we require to know, energy market price we require to know, and thus DG we require to have a generator PQ sharing, PQ set point, grid synchronization. These are the important, and based on that, the microgrid control strategy will work, and thus we can have a centralized and a decentralized control of the microgrids. And if it is a centralized control, then all the data has been taken into the central processor system, and then all are being controlled from the central point. But any breaking of the communication network will be fatal, and for this reason, it is not advisable to operate into the centralized mode. Now, the storage technology of the microgrid, I just briefed it. So there's a different kind of storage technology that is available. So these are pumped hydro, air compressor, also flywheel, and based on the time we have market, so we can have a electromagnetic storage supercapacitor SMEs, and electrochemical also hydrogen, power to the gas. There are the flow batteries, that is a new concept is coming out as a liquid battery. I am going to use the flow battery in my project of the Modibus. And then the thermal power, storage, it is, and then power converters topology for the storage is that we use maybe the cascade multi-level inverter or the modular multi-level inverter, and that is very much suitable for the AC to DC conversion. And modeling of the storage, we can do the same modeling for the ultra capacitor. So we require to model with this resistance and the capacitors, and a losses with the ESS, and thus we can write the equations of the ultracapacitor like that, and from there we can control the ultracapacitor. And same way, this is the modeling of the ultracapacitor charging circuits that can find a lot of applications in case of the bidirectional. Instead of the battery, it will be replaced by the ultracapacitors. So ultracapacitor control system is that you have a voltage and current reference, then PI controller, voltage controller, then you have different mode of charging and operations, and then current controller, then it is essentially a PI controller, then DC-to-DC converter, then it goes to the ultracapacitor. Now the current control loop will have a feed-forward network that is a constant gain, then we have a buffer, then we have a ultracapacitor charging, because otherwise we have to monitor generally the temperature, since we require to see that it is converted to the heat or it is leveling the voltage. So for this reason, the voltage has to be monitored, and that will be the input to your current. So, and same way the voltage loop, we know that C divided equal to I. So from there we require to stabilize the ultracapacitor. Please understand that ultracapacitor is a RC network, but it can have a state inductance also. So resonance also comes into the picture into the board. So we require to take utmost cautious while increasing the value of the current. So now classification of the microgrid. We can have the stability. Microgrid stability is based on grid connected microgrid and the islanding microgrid. We can have a small disturbance stability, voltage stability, and these are in the short term. We can have a transient stability, voltage stability, and ultracapacitor short term. Then these are short term and long term depending on the we have classified it. And this is the small segment temp stability. So grid connected mode for single DG, 2 DG, and multi DG, and we generally go for the troop control. For islanding mode, influence of troop gain, influence of X/R ratio, influence of the load time, small signal stability definitely comes into the picture. And ultimately, there is a transient stability. I'll share the slides, so these are almost self-explanatory, so I don't explain it further. And there is a power system stability, so that is also very important. Large disturbance stability and the small disturbance stability. Mostly it is same as our power system dynamics. And thus microgrid stability can be classified in these slides. You know, voltage stability, frequency stability for the islanding operation for the AC grid, then mitigation procedure, small disturbance, class disturbance issues, reasons, and thus we have to address in a common mode. And the key issue of the microgrids are many, that uncertainty, lifeline, operations, mode of transfer, small infrastructure, cyber security, power electronics, all those comes into the picture. Now, if someone asks me, I can explain it because I wanted to go into the Q&A sessions first. So thank you for your attention. I thus control my discussions. I rushed a little bit for the last part of my presentations. I wanted to have a little more time for the QA. Kindly start the QA.
So participants, you can unmute and ask the question.
So I cannot see the chat box properly.